Order. Um, and Out of respect for his time, we'll go ahead and get started. The first item on the agenda is the 45 West Main relocation and ENR biosolids upgrade project. Ms. Matthews?
It's actually going to be Mr. Davidson.
Morning. So,
Morning, Mr. Davidson.
we're going to talk about the future move here to from 56 to 45 this morning. What's going to happen is we're going to schedule with Skyline Technologies to do a fiber cut here at 56 and replace the fiber at 45 the same day we schedule our move. We'll also have to schedule our phone lines to be moved from 56 to 45. All of that be scheduled for the same day. And then prior to the moving to 45, the IT staff may start working, depending when the buildings turn over to us, installing switches and Wi-Fi equipment. So we'll have to test the voice and data ports that are installed by the contractor today, make sure they're all working correctly. Part of this move, we're going to resubnet our admin and police buildings. The reason why is currently the admin and police buildings split are sharing a subnet. So it only gives us 126 usable IPs at each location. We're outgrowing that at the current pace we're going. With the police, they're bringing on body-worn cameras, which each take an IP address. We're gaining people at 56. They're moving from the older plant to 56. And plus we've hired some new people on that will be in the 45 location. So we're running out of addresses. So we'll have to do that prior to the move also. I can go in more depth about that stuff in the closed session. We would like to start the move on a Friday morning with hopes to have the system back up by Friday afternoon. So what would happen, the people at 56 office, you'll have to telework that day, or they could work in their new offices, setting them up while we're doing the system outage. Before we do the shutdown, we'll have to do a complete system backup. We'll have to migrate a few of our servers from the current location out to our DR system, so that way the police can stay up and running. Most of the apartments will go dark. The only apartments will stay up while we are down here at 56 will be the police, streets, and rec. They will stay up and operational. Water plant, wastewater plant, utility plant will go dark during those times. We'll have to unrack the current location and rack it at the new location in the new server room. Once we get it all fired up, we'll have to do a whole system startup, and we'll have to do a power failure test to ensure that the operations of it for a power failure, to make sure the generator fires up like it's supposed to in a situation where there's no power outage. That's the 45 highlighted move. Do you guys have any questions on that?
Any questions?
Or I guess who's the chair? Do I ask the chair for permission?
I'm the chair. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a really busy day. I have a vague idea of what all that means, and it's a lot. I guess my first question is, do we have enough people to do all that in a day, in your opinion, or do we need any outside help to make sure that happens and goes smoothly? And I guess yeah, I mean, that's a lot to do in a day, Mr. Davidson. So I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable with the resources we have to make all that happen in a day. Because I know one of the problems, like a lot of people always want to do it on a Friday for good reason, but also if you have any issues with like porting, like when you're dealing with like players like Verizon, if something goes wrong and it doesn't happen, it's a whole weekend where there's you're kind of in limbo. So I just want to make sure you feel comfortable with it. As long as you feel comfortable with it, I guess we should.
So we will need help. I did budget in this year's budget to have outside help to move across the street. So I do have money in my budget for that. So it won't be no surprise. And I need this. As I get through what we will probably don't have in my budget, I'm going to ask for a help desk person, a temporary help desk person during these move times. Because as I go through the wastewater move, you'll see why, to help us get some things accomplished that we can't. So moving on to the wastewater, as you know, the wastewater plant, the ENR project is where the current offices are going to be demolished and taken down. So they have to be relocated to a temporary location, which is the stockyard. Part of that is we'll have to build a complete network for them and backfeed the old buildings at the plant. So both of these moves are all scheduled around the same time. So we're looking, the wastewater moves probably in January, and you're probably looking at other 45 moves probably late February. So, or at least starting. So it's all going to kind of fall within the same time for us. So what that means for the wastewater is we'll have to wire, relocate them, and get the infrastructure back up and working for them, and plus feed their old buildings that they have systems in. So they're back on and working. So breaking that down, we will need the additional help. So I was going to ask for a temp person during that time period to help us, set up computers, tear down computers, and move stuff. As you know, it's just me and two other gentlemen in our department that take care of this today. Is there any questions on the ENR project?
Not for me.
No.
So we'll move on to the next, what's the next item on your?
The next item is update on the Westminster fiber network expansion.
I can refer to the mayor on this. He was in the fiber meeting the other day. Would you like to speak on that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I guess we're filling in Mr. Kibachi here because everybody else was at that. Well, I guess Dave, you weren't at that meeting, or Mr. Davidson, you weren't at that meeting. But there really isn't a big update. We're really just kind of refining the process and trying to figure out some logistical issues. For instance, the different, we're hashing out like the different types of drops, how we're going to possibly make it, lower barriers to entry for people to sign up if it's an expensive drop, whether that would be through like installment payments to pay for the install, or those kind of things. There really isn't a big update. We're still waiting to get the contract amendment from Ting. I think the only action item we really have, when we decided on like the logo for the Westminster Fiber project, the official logo that we'll probably incorporate on like a couple of pages on the site and whatnot. And I do know that some of us, we want to kind of start messaging the Westminster Fiber Network as a maybe not like an entity, but a project. So everyone doesn't think it's all Ting. But yeah, there's really no big update. I think we're going to try to talk to set up a meeting here in the very near future with Ting to help hash through some of these options I mentioned, just to kind of make it a little easier for people to sign up. But that's really it. We're still the big thing is we're still waiting to get a contract amendment from them, and then we can start working through that. But until we get that, we really can't do a whole lot with it. But we would like to get moving on that and get a few drops installed.
Mr. President.
Mr. Kibachi.
Yeah. So, Mr. Mayor, when you guys have that meeting, is Ting part of that conversation?
So
do they attend those meetings?
Yeah. So traditionally, we would have the city representative Val at those meetings.
Yep.
But it depends on what the meeting's about. So sometimes she's there, sometimes she's not. This was a special meeting called by Deputy Public Works Director John Dick, and his agenda, it was his agenda that he wanted to go over, and it wasn't that didn't have anything really to do with Ting. It was kind of all internal. Most of the time it is, because that's when we talk about updates on like how they're doing and what their take rates are and all of that stuff. Every now and then we have one that's just kind of like city business. Obviously we need to be able to meet sometime to negotiate or talk about how we're going to negotiate with Ting and so forth. But the next one we're going to have Ting there. So usually Ting's usually there. Sometimes they're not though.
And part of the reason I asked that question was because you were talking about potentially the cost of the drops and billing them in installments. And obviously I would assume we're not going to get into billing that. That would all have, I would guess that's going to flow through Ting, right? Because they're the ones who do all the invoicing relative to fiber.
Oh, if we're gonna bill a drop, that's gonna be, it's almost definitely gonna be through us now.
Oh, okay. So we're going to have our own billing system for that outside of the. Huh.
Yeah, part of the utility billing system, just for the construction,
Okay.
whether it's a one-time bill, which is what we're leaning toward for, for like businesses, for instance, residences, or, if they, if it's an expensive drop, we want to make sure they had an option to maybe spread it out over a year or two. We're hashing all that out. Those are all details.
Okay, great.
But
Well, that gives us a lot more control. That's what I was just wondering how we were going to control all of that. Well, if we're going to just do it and bifurcate that part of the billing away from Ting, then we don't have to worry about it. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cavacci. Any other questions on this? And by the way, that logo that the mayor mentioned is the one he shared, with all of us, a while back, Mr. Cavacci. So I'm pretty sure you've seen it.
It's a good idea to brand it separately because look, we need to have some recognition because obviously the relationship thing is great, but ultimately down the road, the thought behind this was eventually to have opportunities for other folks to come in and be able to sell services to the end users. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a good move.
Any other business that need to
I
be
can
covered
cover
this time?
what we need at the current time, what we're lacking in software and stuff like that, if you like. So things that we're lacking with technology today would be a network monitoring software. Policy updates, we need to go over our policies and procedures as they've been with the city for a long while. As a new HR director comes on, we have policies written up, ready to go. And once we have the new HR director in place, we will sit down with her, go over the policies, and then send them off to Alyssa, and then send them off to committee for their review before implemented. One thing I see throughout budgets and times is we may want to consider looking into a phone stipend in place of issuing cell phones, as we find users tend to want to use their personal cell phone instead of carrying up two cell phones, and we'll find that they're turned off laying in a desk drawer instead of being used. Something we may want to look into going forward in the budget cycles. See what kind of ideas you may have on there. I feel we're going to need more citywide training in technology as we move forward, and hence why we're putting in the computer lab in the new admin building. And you'll see later on when we go to closed session why I'll state that. I believe the city is going to need a full document management solution. Currently, we're just using a file structure. It'd be nice to get a full citywide document management solution where you can search off metadata to find items that you're looking for quickly and fast, and also get rid of some of these old file cabinets and all the papers just getting mildew and from being in basements.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look into a better friendly rental housing and code enforcement software for the public use, make it more friendly and more usable. One of the big things that's going to be coming up in front of us is going to be the financial system is going to be sunsetting within the next 2 years. So we're going to have to put that on our front burner and start looking into a new financial system. I will attend the conference in April, which is going to be virtual, just to get more idea on what their plan is in their sunsetting of our current solution. Is there any questions on that?
yeah,
That's a great list, Mr. Davidson. Can you share that with us all?
I'll absolutely share that with you.
That'd be great. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I guess the only question I realized. So when you're talking about a full document solution, because one of the things I was going to bring up is, and again, depending on how big the project is in your eyes, but at some point working toward being a paperless organization. But it sounds like that's what you mean already, right? Because
Yes, that's correct.
As we've gone through a period of time where that would have probably been really nice for everybody, I think it's time to start thinking about doing it. So I'm glad you brought that up. So the finance software, I guess is that a good time to do anything else at the same time? Like when you brought up the rental license software, or is it a bad time to like throw something else on top of it? Just so I understand.
No, I think that'd be the perfect time to look whatever solution we go with and see if they do have an incorporated rental housing program in that solution, or any other solutions that we're looking to, incorporate it all into one package instead of having multiple different platforms out there.
Okay, good. I mean, that's what I thought. Sometimes it's, advantageous to do that. And because as soon as you mentioned, rental license agreement, rental licenses and enforcement, that's something that I think the elected body as a whole has had some interest in looking at and improving. So when you said that, that was something that definitely got my interest. And I think you'll have the interest of the council on that. Cool. That's it. That's all I got.
Mr. President.
Kovaci.
So one of the items you brought up, the cell phone stipend versus providing the phones. How many phones are we providing? Do you have any idea? Ballpark, 50, 75?
Matt may have it. He's on the call. Okay. He may know because he administers and getting those handed out. Matt, do you have off the top of your head how many we have issued out?
So I don't have an exact number of just phones, but totally on our Verizon right now, we have 129 devices, 40 MDCs, a few Dell tablets for the guys out in public works. So subtracting those, I would say somewhere between about 70 and 90 cell phones.
So we did that. For my company at one point, all of our account reps we gave them phones and some other folks. So nothing of that magnitude, but I want to say a dozen, maybe 15 phones that we were providing to our employees. And about, I don't know, 7 years ago, we decided to go to a stipend instead, because it was obvious to us they all had their own phones, and it was crazy carrying around 2 phones. They all liked it because, then it was just one device, and devices have got to the point technology wise where it's easy to have multiple things going on, and it can easily differentiate between them. And more importantly, they were excited about it because it saved them money, because in the end, they were still spending money for their own phone, regardless of getting the Kojak, my company's phone. So when we went ahead and started just giving them a stipend for it, they were thrilled because it saved them, the amount of money per month that we were giving them, and it saved us money. It was actually cheaper for us to go ahead and give them the stipend, because then we didn't have to get into buying phones and, paying for the insurance plan and all the other stuff that came along with it. So we saved money. My employees were thrilled because it saved them money, and it has worked perfectly fine. So I really think that would be something we should do as soon as possible, at least from my singular experience of doing it with my own business. So for what it's worth, I think it's absolutely something we should do.
We do the exact same thing. So I'm totally in agreement.
Yep.
I do too. I
used to have to carry 2 cell phones, and it was awful.
Yep.
I had to do it in a suit, so you had a really heavy pocket, 2 phones sliding around in it.
I think it's a relic of the days, before cell phones were common, and it was a big deal to get one. And certainly those times have changed, and most everybody has moved to a subsidy as opposed to giving you a phone. So I agree, Mr. Davidson, that's a good idea, and we're glad you're looking at it. And I agree with Mr. Kovaci. I think we should move forward with it, as soon as you've got the time to do it, because obviously you've got a lot on your plate, but it sounds like a good idea.
Well, Mr. President, the other thing too here is technology's come a long way over the last 10, 15 years with that stuff. And you have to, having 2 cell phones used to be a good idea, because you could put your one cell phone away and then go be with your family at a certain point in the day. But now technology and the platforms we use, you can have your work calls going to that cell phone a couple of different ways during the day, and then stop at a certain time. So the options are a lot better too. I just wanted to say that because I think quality of life when it's non-work hours is important. But I believe the system we have can give a couple different options on how to do that. Is that correct, Mr. Davidson?
Right.
Absolutely.
There's one other thing I did miss in my list is a more robust 311 system that will allow geofencing. What geofencing is that we can control the borders of where the tickets are put in from. Our current system, you can be in California and put a ticket in for a pothole. So this would be more of a public help that they can put their own ticket in instead of our streets department putting in every bulk trash pickup for their trucks to go out. So this is something we probably should put on also up on the front burners to look at a better solution there. That then when the public wants to put in a bulk trash or a pothole or anything, that they can put the ticket in through our website. And if it's not in our city, it'll either inform them, or if it's with the county, it will send it to the county, or vice versa. If somebody's in the city and tries to send it to the county, the system will pick up and send it to us. But I will send this list off to you guys later this afternoon.
Great, thank you very much. All right, I think that concludes the public session of our meeting, except for the vote to go into a closed session. Mr. Cavacci?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion under the statutory authority to close sessions under the Maryland Annotated Code of General Provisions, Article 3-305B. 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or other personnel matters that affect one or more specific individuals. It is also under subsection 3-305B3 to discuss the potential acquisition of residential property to abate a nuisance. Wait a minute, that wouldn't apply to us.
If I
I
may,
think there might be,
I think this wrong form may have been sent to you, Councilmember Cavacci,
Yeah.
or you're reading. There was one that Shannon sent this morning to you.
all right, hold on a second. I apologize. Maybe I pulled the right.
Tony, I can forward it back to you real quick.
Yeah, that's the one I just downloaded this morning. Hold on.
Say I wasn't prepared for such a serious closed session.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
wow.
not me
I was
neither.
like, what are we doing here? All right.
I apologize. Something did happen. I sent you the wrong form. That is on me.
Yeah, as I started reading, wait, this isn't right. Okay, resend me the right one, please, Shannon.
Yeah, sorry about that, Tony.
Actually, Shannon, why don't you read it if you could? I'll
Okay.
make the motion after you read it, and I think we'll be fine. And that
Good-
way it'll
good
save, because
solution.
yeah, just go ahead and read it, Shannon. What
Okay.
you want to read is that first top section, whatever's X'd off, just that section, and then down at the bottom if there's anything, please.
Yes, we didn't have anything below. It was just,
Okay.
so it's to discuss the public security if the public body determines that public decision would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including the development of fire and police services and staff, and the development and implementation of the emergency plans.
All right.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move that under those annotated codes that I read in my section, amend it, and then added with what we are actually closing for by what Shannon read, we go into a closed section.
We'll smooth it out in the minutes.
That's my motion,
Um,
Mr. President.
All right, and I will second that. And I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have
Aye.
it. And we will move now to a closed session. Thank you all very much.